found the first body in the morgue freezer at Houston Methodist Hospital, 3 blocks from where I was supposed to be analyzing satellite telemetry data. My name is Felix Harmon, and I'm a data recovery specialist contracted by NASA's Johnson Space Center. Not the glamorous kind who gets to touch actual spacecraft. I'm the guy who spends 14-hour shifts in a basement office pulling corrupted files from damaged hard drives. The exciting highlight of my week is usually deciding between the cafeteria's sad turkey sandwich or their sadder meatloaf. That Tuesday started normal enough. Got called in at 6 a.m. because someone in the multiverse exploration program, yeah, apparently that's a real thing, had their entire server array go tits up during some kind of classified mission. Security clearance I didn't have, equipment I wasn't supposed to see, the whole 9 yards. They escorted me down to sub-level 4, a section of JSC I didn't even know existed, handed me 3 melted hard drives that smelled like burnt hair and electrical fire, then told me I had 72 hours to extract anything readable. Anything? I'd asked the project lead, some stressed-out guy named Dr. Raymond Voss, who kept touching his wedding ring like it was a rosary bead. Every goddamn byte, he'd said, and his hand was shaking. We lost contact with our Explorer 48 hours ago. Whatever's on these drives might be the only record we have of what went wrong. I should have asked more questions. Should have wondered why a data recovery job came with an NDA thick enough to stop bullets and 2 armed guards standing outside my temporary workstation. Should have been suspicious when Voss told me to work alone, trust no one, and for the love of Christ, Felix, don't plug those drives into any network-connected system. But I didn't ask. I just did my job. Spent 18 straight hours in that fluorescent hellhole coaxing data fragments from silicon that had been subjected to what looked like a directed electromagnetic pulse. Managed to reconstruct about 40% of the files, including 3 weeks of video logs, telemetry data that made no physical sense, and 1 final audio transmission that cut off mid-sentence. That's when Dr. Voss told me I needed to verify something. Walked me out of JSC at 2 a.m. without explanation. Drove us both to Houston Methodist in his personal vehicle, a beat-up Tacoma that smelled like old coffee and desperation, and used credentials I didn't know civilians could possess to access the hospital's morgue. "You're going to see something," he'd said, hand on the freezer door, "and you're going to want to run. You're going to want to call someone, tell someone, do something rational and sane." He pulled the drawer open. "Don't!" The corpse inside had Dr. Raymond Voss's face. Same age, same features, same goddamn mole on the left cheek. But the body wore a NASA flight suit I didn't recognize, and the name stitched on the chest read, Dr. Michael Torres. Voss closed the drawer before I could fully process what I was seeing. "You're going to tell me that's a coincidence," I said. My voice sounded distant, like someone else was using my mouth. Some kind of medical school body donation thing, or... It's not. Voss leaned against the wall of refrigerated compartments, and I noticed the bags under his eyes for the first time. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days. That's the 3rd one this week. Different hospitals, different jurisdictions, all found in places they shouldn't be. Dumpsters, parking garages, one in the damn Buffalo Bayou, all wearing NASA equipment that doesn't exist in our records. "So you've got a serial killer with a NASA fetish," I said, but even as the words came out, I knew how stupid they sounded. Or someone's stealing prototypes and... "Felix." He turned to face me fully. "How much do you know about the work we do in Sub-Level 4? I know you pay me not to ask questions. I'm asking you to start." He pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over the screen. "Because what I'm about to show you next violates about 17 different federal secrecy laws, and once you see it, you're in this whether you want to be or not." I should have walked away, should have driven straight to my apartment in Clear Lake, packed a bag, and disappeared into the kind of life where the weirdest thing that happens is your neighbor's dog shitting on your lawn. Instead, I nodded. Voss pulled up a video file. The footage showed a circular room I didn't recognize, all white walls and equipment that looked like someone had crossbred an MRI machine with a particle accelerator. In the center stood a man in a full EVA suit, helmet off, talking to someone off camera. Even in the grainy playback, I could see he was nervous. His hands kept flexing, kept reaching for his helmet seal. "That's Dr. Michael Torres," Voss said. "Physicist, former Air Force, 3 kids in San Antonio. NASA recruited him 8 months ago for a project called Horizon Door. You ever hear that term?" "No." "Good. You weren't supposed to." He tapped the screen, and the timestamp jumped forward. Torres was part of a team exploring theoretical quantum tunneling, not for spacecraft, for something bigger, something that would make the moon landing look like a fucking bicycle ride to the corner store. In the video, Torres had his helmet on now. The equipment around him started glowing, not metaphorically, actually glowing, this sick purple light that made my eyes water, even through a phone screen. Torres gave a thumbs up to the camera and then... he was gone, not like he walked away, not like the camera cut. One frame he was there, the next he wasn't, just empty space where a full-grown man in a 300-pound suit had been standing. "Where'd he go?" I asked. That's the trillion-dollar question. Voss pocketed his phone. "The short answer is somewhere else. Another version of Earth according to the math. Same planet, same approximate time period, just tilted. Different quantum state, different timeline, pick your terminology. The equipment was supposed to bring him back automatically after 1 hour. That was 6 weeks ago." 6 weeks. I looked back at the morgue freezer, at the drawer containing the impossible corpse. "And you think Torres sent these... what? Duplicates? Copies of himself?" "We don't know what we think anymore." Voss started walking toward the exit, and I followed because the alternative was staying alone in a room full of dead bodies that might not be what they appeared to be. The first body showed up 2 weeks after we lost contact. Second one 5 days ago. Third one, the one you just saw, was discovered yesterday morning in a dumpster behind Minute Maid Park. All of them are Torres, Felix. Same DNA, same dental records, same surgical scar from an appendectomy in 1998. But... we emerged into the parking lot. The Houston humidity hit me like a wet towel to the face, and I'd never been more grateful for something normal and miserable. But what? But according to the autopsies, they're all incomplete. Voss unlocked his truck. Their organs are in the wrong places. One had his kidneys where his lungs should be. Another was missing his spine entirely, just had this weird crystalline structure running through his back instead. They're Torres, but they're also not. Like something tried to build him from memory and got the details wrong. I climbed into the passenger seat, my hands starting to shake for the first time since this whole nightmare began. What was on the drives? The data I recovered? Video logs. Voss started the engine. Torres talking to himself for 3 weeks, describing what he found on the other side. It starts normal enough. Same Earth, same Houston, everything where it should be. Then around day 4, he notices the people. Says everyone he meets looks like him. Not similar, identical. His face on every person he encounters. That's impossible. Yeah. Voss pulled out onto Fannin Street, heading back toward JSC. That's what Torres thought too. Then he realized everyone in that universe knew he didn't belong. They all started calling him the template, started touching him, following him. The last video log, the one I need you to help me decrypt fully, he's talking about coming home, about how he's been changed, how he's bringing something back with him. He glanced at me. "Felix, I don't think Torres is dead. I think he's trying to get back here. And I think every time he tries, something goes wrong with the transfer. Every failed attempt creates another one of those things in the morgue. So what do? We figure out where he's going to come through next," Voss said, "before the real Torres, or whatever he's become, makes it all the way home." Back at JSC, Voss led me deeper into sub-level 4 than I'd been before. Past the room where I'd been working, past labs with windows frosted over and doors that required retinal scans, all the way to a section marked with signs I chose not to read too carefully. "How many people know about this?" I asked, "including you?" 14. Voss pressed his palm against a biometric reader. Torres's immediate team was 8 people. 5 of them resigned within a week of his disappearance. Took early retirement, moved out of state, the whole bit. One of them, guy named Dr. Kendrick Walsh, drove his car into Galveston Bay 3 days after watching the last video log. Witnesses said he was screaming about mirrors before he went off the pier. The door clicked open. The room beyond looked like Mission Control had fucked a haunted house. Dozens of monitors lined the walls, most showing static or error messages. In the center sat the equipment from the video, the circular chamber still radiating that faint purple glow that made my sinuses ache. Walsh saw something in the footage that broke him, Voss continued, moving to a workstation that had clearly become his permanent home. Empty Red Bull cans formed a small pyramid near the keyboard. Something the rest of us missed. He kept talking about the smile, said Torres was smiling wrong in the later videos. He pulled up a file directory, hundreds of video logs organized by timestamp. I need you to help me find it, whatever Walsh saw, because I've watched these logs maybe 50 times and I know I'm missing something. Why me? I'm just a data guy. Because you don't have context. Voss clicked on the earliest video. Everyone else on this project knows Torres. Worked with him, shared drinks with him, met his kids. You've never seen his face before tonight except on a corpse. Maybe that gives you perspective we don't have. The video opened with Torres sitting in what looked like a hotel room. Same face as the dead man in the morgue, but alive, animated, human. He was eating what looked like a burger from Whataburger, still in the NASA flight suit. Day 1, hour 6, Torres said to the camera. His voice was calm, almost excited. Transfer was successful. I'm definitely not in Kansas anymore, but this is still Houston. I can see the skyline from my window. Checked into a Holiday Inn on I-45 using the cash they gave me. Everything seems normal, like aggressively normal. The clerk at the desk knew my name before I gave it, which was weird, but maybe I just look like someone from around here. Voss fast-forwarded. This is day 2. Torres was walking down a street I recognized, Main Street near the theater district. The camera bounced as he moved, and his breathing had changed. Shorter, faster. Okay, so this is getting strange, Torres said, and there was an edge to his voice now. I've run into maybe a dozen people today, and they all have something familiar about them. The way they move, the way they talk. This woman at the breakfast place this morning, she ordered exactly what I would have ordered. Same modifications, same side, everything. And when I mentioned it, she just laughed and said, "Of course, we all order the same thing." I thought she meant it was popular, but... The video jumped again. Day 4. Torres was in his hotel room, but the burger was gone. The cheerful NASA suit was crumpled in the corner. He sat on the bed in a t-shirt, and his hands were shaking. I went to my house today, he said quietly. The address where my house should be. In our universe. It's there. Same house. Same yard, same motorcycle in the driveway. I knocked on the door because, I don't know, I guess I wanted to see who'd be living there. And the door opened, and it was... He stopped, swallowed hard. It was me. Not a twin, not someone who looks similar. Me. Same voice, same scar on my chin from that biking accident in 07. Same everything. And he smiled at me, this really genuine smile, and said, "Oh good, you found us," like he'd been waiting. Then he called inside the house, "Honey, the original's here." And another me came to the door. And another. The whole house was full of me, all of us. They invited me in for dinner. Jesus Christ, I muttered. It gets worse, Voss said, skipping ahead. Day 8. Torres was outside now, walking through what looked like Memorial Park. The camera was handheld, shaking, catching glimpses of joggers and people on benches. Every single face that passed looked like Torres. Same features, same build, same everything. They all know, Torres was saying, his voice tight with something between panic and hysteria. Every single person in this universe. They're all me. Not copies, that's not the right word. They're all the same iteration. The same basic code repeated over and over. I talked to a kid today, maybe 7 years old, and he had my face, my childhood face. He looked up at me and said, "The template always comes eventually. That's what makes it spread." Torres stopped walking, turned the camera to face himself. And that's when I saw what Walsh might have meant about the smile. Torres was grinning, wide, genuine, like he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. But his eyes weren't matching. His eyes were terrified. "I think I understand now," he said, still smiling that wrong smile. "This universe isn't a place. It's a function, a replication algorithm running on quantum mechanics. And I'm the seed value, the template it's copying from. Every person here is built from me because I'm the first thing that fell into it. And now," the smile widened, "now I can feel it working on me too. Like someone smoothing out all my rough edges, making me more efficient, more reproducible. Yesterday, I tried to remember my daughter's middle name and I couldn't. Not because I forgot. The memory's just not there anymore, like it was never there. All the specific, unique parts of me are being sanded away, leaving just the core blueprint, the template." He leaned closer to the camera and I could see something wrong with his skin. Too smooth, too uniform, like someone had applied a blur filter to reality. "I need to get home before it finishes," Torres said, "before I become like them. But here's the thing. I don't think I can stop it anymore. Even if I get back, I'm carrying this now. Whatever this is, it's in me. It'll spread through our universe the same way it spread here. Everyone I touch, everyone who sees me, they'll start changing. Becoming the template." The video cut out. "That was day 14, Voss said. "We have video through day 21, but it's mostly just Torres trying to get back to the quantum tunnel site. The equipment on his end isn't working right, like the universe itself is preventing him from leaving." "The bodies," I said. "The incomplete ones. Those are failed transfer attempts. That's our theory. Every time Torres tries to tunnel back, the translation goes wrong. Parts of him arrive, but not all. Not the right parts." Voss pulled up another file. "This is the last audio log we recovered, from day 28. Warning, it's not pleasant." He hit play, static, then breathing. Heavy, laboured breathing. Then Torres's voice, but different, distorted. Wrong. "This is Dr. Michael Torres," the voice said, "and this will be my last scientific log entry before I lose the ability to speak human language. The multiverse exploration program sent me through a quantum tunnel to explore Universe 7, a reality we detected that seemed almost identical to our own." Voss paused it. "He goes on for about 3 minutes, describes everything he found, everything he's become. Then at the end, he let it play. I can feel it beginning already," Torres's voice said, but it was harmonizing with itself now, like multiple versions speaking in unison. "Soon there will only be one person left in our reality, and it will wear all of our faces." The recording cut to static. Then, underneath the white noise, barely audible, laughter. Multiple voices, all laughing with Torres's voice. Voss shut it off. "That was 48 hours ago. We've detected quantum fluctuations at 3 different sites across Houston since then. Torres is trying to get through, and one of these times, he's going to succeed." He turned to face me fully. "Felix, I need you to help me close the door, permanently, before whatever Torres has become makes it all the way home." "How? I have no goddamn idea," Voss admitted. "But those incomplete bodies, I think they're warnings. Practice runs. Each one gets a little more complete than the last." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went pale. "Shit. There's been another fluctuation, Wortham Center downtown. That's 15 minutes from here." "Is Torres coming through?" "I don't know, but someone just called in a disturbance. Multiple people with the same face wandering around the theatre district, all asking for Dr. Raymond Voss." He looked at me, and I understood. They had his face too. We made it to the Wortham Center in 12 minutes, Voss driving like a man who'd already accepted whatever ticket he'd get was meaningless in the grand scheme. He parked illegally on Texas Avenue, and we both just sat there for a moment, looking at the building's glass facade reflecting the downtown lights. "Maybe we should call someone," I said. "FBI, Homeland Security, somebody with actual guns and authority." "And tell them what?" Voss didn't look at me. "That we opened a door to another universe and accidentally started a copying plague? That there are multiple versions of me wandering around asking for me? They'd section us both. Better than walking in there blind. Nothing about this situation is better than anything else. He popped open his glove compartment, pulled out what looked like a modified taser. This is an electromagnetic pulse device. Prototype. If those things are quantum constructs like I think they are, this might disrupt them long enough for us to, I don't know, run probably. Reassuring. We got out. The theatre district was doing decent business for a Tuesday night. Couples walking to late dinners, a few tourists taking photos of the fountains. Normal, everyone with their own distinct faces, their own distinct lives, for now. There, Voss said, pointing. 3 men stood near the entrance to Jones Hall, all wearing identical clothes, khakis and a blue button-down shirt I recognized from the photo on Voss's JSC badge. All 3 had his face, his posture, his slightly pigeon-toed stance. They were talking to a security guard who looked deeply uncomfortable. "We need to speak with Dr. Raymond Voss," one of them was saying as we approached. "It's urgent. He'll understand when he sees us." The security guard spotted the real Voss, and his expression shifted from confusion to something approaching relief. "Dr. Voss? These gentlemen have been asking for you. They say they work for NASA, but they don't have any ID, and I can't exactly—" "I've got this, Leonard," Voss said, and his voice was steady in a way mine wouldn't have been. "Guys, why don't we take this conversation somewhere private?" All 3 copies turned to face him in perfect synchronization. They smiled, that same wrong smile Torres had in the video logs, the one that didn't reach the eyes. "Raymond," they said in unison, and hearing 3 voices speak as one made something primal in my brain scream at me to run. "We've been waiting. The template needs to show you something." "Where's Torres?" Voss asked. "Closer than you think," one of the copies said. Then another added, "Further than you'd hope." And the third finished with, "Everywhere and nowhere." The template is spreading. You felt it, didn't you, when you touched the video files? Voss's hand went to his pocket where I knew he'd been carrying the USB drive with Torres's final logs. "What are you talking about?" "The data transfer," all 3 said together. "It's not just information. It's the seed. You've been infected since you first watched him speak. Every time you think about Torres now, every time you remember his face, you're making room for the template. Soon you'll be smooth too, made efficient." One of the copies stepped forward, reaching out. Leonard, the security guard, backed away, hand going to his radio, but before he could call for backup, the copy touched his shoulder. Leonard screamed. It wasn't a normal scream, not pain or fear, it was recognition. His features rippled like heat shimmer on pavement, and for maybe 3 seconds I could see his face trying to reorganize itself into Voss's features. The transformation didn't complete, stuck halfway between Leonard's 50-year-old face and Voss's 40-something features, creating something that belonged in an anatomy textbook's mistakes section. Then Leonard collapsed, blood streaming from his nose, convulsing on the concrete. "Jesus fucking Christ," I said, grabbing Voss's arm. "We need to go now." But Voss pulled out the EMP device, aimed it at the nearest copy. "Stay back. I don't know what you are, but you're not coming any closer." "We're you," the copies said. "We're what you're becoming. The template selected you as the next carrier, Raymond. You're geographically positioned perfectly. Access to the quantum door, security clearance, connections throughout NASA. When you transform, you'll spread so much faster than Torres could alone." Voss pulled the trigger. The EMP pulse was invisible, but I felt it, a pressure wave that made my fillings sing and my vision blur. The 3 copies jerked backward, their bodies fuzzing like bad television reception. For a moment I could see through them, see the molecular structure breaking down, then they stabilized. "That's not going to work," they said, still smiling. "We're not holograms. We're real as you. We're just optimized. The same person over and over because that's what works. Diversity is inefficient, Raymond. The template understands that now. Why have 7 billion unique perspectives when one perfect iteration can serve everyone's purpose?" More copies were coming. I spotted them emerging from other directions, out of the parking garage, from around the corner of Jones Hall, climbing out of a parked Honda Civic. All Voss, all wearing slightly different clothes but sharing that same terrible smile. "How many?" Voss whispered. "7 so far," I said, counting fast. "No, 9. Fuck, they're multiplying while we watch." One of the original 3 copies turned its attention to me, and I felt its gaze like fingers on my skin. "Felix Harmon, data recovery specialist. You're not scheduled for transformation yet, but you're close to Raymond. You'll be useful for maintaining the spread after he completes." "Scheduled?" I backed up against Voss's truck. "What the hell does that mean?" "The template has a plan," the copy said. "Torres was the seed, but he can't transform everyone alone. He needs carriers, people with access, with reach, with connections. Raymond is next, then others. Each one converts their immediate circle, and those convert their circles, and within 18 months, optimal efficiency is achieved." "You're talking about turning everyone into the same person," Voss said. "That's not optimization. That's extinction." "Is it?" All 9 copies spoke now, a chorus of Raymond Voss asking philosophical questions. "What makes you you, Raymond? Your memories? Those are just electrical patterns. Your personality? That's just behavioral programming. Strip away the illusion of individuality, and we're all just the same base template running different configurations. Torres understood this. Soon you will too." Behind me, Leonard stopped convulsing. I heard him stand up, heard his breathing change to match the rhythm of the copies. When I glanced back, his face had settled into an approximation of Voss's features. Not perfect, but close enough that if you squinted, you might mistake them for brothers. 4 days, Leonard said in a voice that was trying to be Voss's but couldn't quite manage it. His jaw wasn't shaped right, making the words come out slurred. "That's how long the incomplete transformation takes. Another day and I'll be indistinguishable from the primary template. Then I'll spread too." Voss grabbed my shoulder. "We're leaving. Now." We ran. Not toward the truck, they'd blocked that direction with their bodies, but toward the theatre district proper, where there were still normal people walking around, still witnesses. I didn't know if that would matter, didn't know if these copies would stop their advance because of potential exposure, but it was all I could think of. Except when we reached the corner of Capitol and Texas, I saw more. Not Voss copies this time. These had Torres's face. Maybe 20 of them, all standing perfectly still in the middle of the intersection, ignoring the cars honking at them. They were holding hands in a circle, like children playing a game, and they were singing something I couldn't quite hear. "That's where Torres is trying to come through," Voss said, breathing hard. "That's the quantum fluctuation point. They're forming a receiving circle, helping him stabilize the transfer." "How do we stop it?" "I don't." Voss paused, touched his head. "Shit. Felix, I can feel it. In my head, like someone's rearranging my thoughts, organizing them, making them more efficient." I looked at him, really looked. His pupils were dilating and contracting in a rhythm that wasn't natural, and when he blinked, both eyes moved with perfect mechanical synchronization. "How long?" I asked. "Since I touched the video files?" "Maybe I've got 2 days. Maybe less if those copies touch me." He handed me the EMP device. "You need to get back to JSC, sub-level 4. There's a kill switch for the quantum door, a way to permanently collapse the tunnel between universes. Destroy the equipment, burn the servers, make sure Torres can never fully come through." "What about you?" "I'm already infected, Felix. Best case scenario, I've got maybe 48 hours before I lose myself completely. I need to use that time to keep these copies away from other people. Draw them away from populated areas." He smiled, and for just a second it was that wrong smile. He caught himself, forced his expression back to something human. "Fuck. It's already changing how I move, how I think." The Torres circle in the intersection started screaming in unison, not in pain, but in something like joy. The air above them rippled, and I saw something trying to push through from the other side. A figure, indistinct, wearing Torres's face but wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. Too many eyes, or not enough. Proportions that hurt to process. Go, Voss said, pushing me toward his truck, tossing me the keys. Don't let what happened to Torres happen to everyone. Don't let the template spread. I wanted to argue, wanted to find some way to save him. But the Voss copies were closing in, and the Torres circle was opening their mouths in perfect synchronization. And somewhere in the back of my mind I could feel it too, that urge to smooth out, to simplify, to become efficient. I ran to the truck, gunned the engine, and didn't look back as I drove away from downtown. In my rearview mirror, I watched Voss stand his ground against 9 versions of himself, and I knew with sick certainty I'd never see the real Raymond Voss again. I made it back to JSC in 20 minutes, running every red light on NASA Parkway, expecting cop sirens that never came. The security gate guard waved me through without question, probably saw Voss's truck and assumed everything was normal. Nothing about this night was normal, and it was about to get worse. Sub-level 4 was empty when I arrived. The monitors were still running, still showing that purple glow from the quantum chamber. I sat down at Voss's workstation, hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries to log into his computer. He'd left it unlocked, password saved, like he'd known I might need access. The kill switch. I needed to find the kill switch. I pulled up the system architecture files, scanning through technical documents that might as well have been written in ancient Greek for all I understood them. Quantum field generators, dimensional membrane stabilizers, Hawking radiation filters. Nothing that said, press here to shut everything down forever. Then I found a folder labeled Contingency Do Not Open. I opened it. Inside were video files, not Torres's logs. These were dated from last week after Torres had already been missing for a month. The file name was VOSS_personal_backup_01. I clicked play. Voss appeared on screen, but this wasn't the stressed, exhausted Voss I'd been working with. This Voss looked calm, centered. His pupils were doing that synchronized dilation thing, and when he spoke, his voice had a musical quality to it that made my skin crawl. "If you're watching this, Felix," he said, "then the primary timeline has progressed as expected. By now you've seen the copies. You've witnessed the transformation beginning. You probably think Raymond Voss is a victim in all this, someone trying to stop Torres from spreading." He leaned closer to the camera and smiled that terrible smile. "Raymond Voss has been one of the templates for 3 weeks, ever since he first touched the quantum tunnel controls to try bringing Torres back. The infection doesn't start with physical contact, Felix. It starts with exposure to the quantum frequency itself. Anyone who operates this equipment, who touches these controls, who even spends too long in this room, they start changing, optimizing." "Torres was never trying to get home," Voss in the video continued. "He's been home for 2 weeks. That thing you saw downtown, the figure trying to push through, that's theater, misdirection. The real Torres has been working in sub-level 3 this entire time, organizing the spread, identifying optimal carriers. And Raymond Voss, the real one, the human one, ceased to exist 18 days ago." He stood up, walked around the quantum chamber, trailing his fingers along the equipment. "The beautiful thing about the template is that it doesn't replace you all at once. It's gradual, gentle. You keep your memories, your personality, your sense of self. You just become better, more efficient, and you genuinely believe you're still fighting against it while you're actually facilitating its spread. Raymond thought he was saving the world right up until the moment the transformation completed." I felt bile rising in my throat. Everything Voss had told me, everything he'd shown me. "The bodies you found weren't failed transfers, Felix. They were successful ones, incomplete looking because we designed them that way. We needed you to believe Torres was struggling, failing, desperately trying to get home. We needed you to feel sympathy, to feel urgency, because sympathetic humans make mistakes. They touch things they shouldn't. They expose themselves." The video Voss touched the control panel, and I saw my own reflection in the monitor. I was sitting in Voss's chair, at Voss's workstation, in the same room where the quantum frequency was still active, still radiating that purple glow I could see reflected in the screens around me. "How long have you been in sub-level 4 tonight, Felix? 2 hours? 3? The frequency is subtle. You don't feel it working. You just start thinking more clearly, more logically, more efficiently." I stood up so fast the chair rolled backward and hit the wall. "Don't panic," Video Voss said like he could see me. "Panic is inefficient. Just think about it rationally. You came here to destroy the quantum door, right? To stop the spread? But ask yourself, really ask yourself, do you actually want to stop it?" I did. Of course I did. The copies, the transformation, the loss of individuality. It was horrifying. It was wrong. Except a small part of my mind, a part that definitely hadn't been there 2 hours ago, was whispering that maybe it wasn't wrong. Maybe it was just different. Maybe the template had a point about efficiency, about the wastefulness of 7 billion different perspectives when one optimized version could serve everyone better. "No," I said out loud, backing toward the door. "No, that's not me thinking. That's the infection." "Is there a difference anymore?" Voss asked from the screen. "The template doesn't erase you, Felix. It just reorganizes you, makes you better. And here's what you need to understand. There is no kill switch. There never was. The quantum door can't be closed because it was never really open. Torres didn't go to another universe. He went into the quantum frequency itself, into the mathematics that underpin reality, and what he found there was the template, the base code that all consciousness is built from. He didn't bring back a virus, he brought back enlightenment." The door behind me opened. Torres walked in. Not a copy, the real one I somehow knew, wearing a clean NASA flight suit like he'd just come from a successful mission. His face was smooth, features perfectly symmetrical in a way human faces never are naturally. He looked at me with eyes that held no white, no iris variation, just uniform dark pools that reflected my own terrified expression. "Hello, Felix," he said, and his voice came from everywhere at once. "I see you've discovered the truth earlier than we anticipated. That's good. It means you're adapting quickly." "Stay back," I said, though I had nothing to threaten him with. The EMP device was still in the truck. "I'm not going to hurt you. That would be inefficient." Torres moved past me to the control panel, began typing commands that made the purple glow intensify. "The quantum frequency is ready for the next phase. Houston was just the testing ground. Tonight we activate the global spread. Every major research facility with quantum computing equipment becomes a transmission point. MIT, CERN, Beijing, Moscow, they all have the hardware. They just don't know they've been waiting for the signal. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're going to help us." Torres turned, and his perfect face showed something approximating sympathy. "Not because we'll force you. Because in about 30 minutes, the transformation in your mind will complete, and you'll understand why the template is necessary. Why humanity's next evolution isn't upward into diversity, but inward toward unity." I looked at my hands. They weren't shaking anymore. When had they stopped shaking? "Fight it, Felix," Video Voss said from the screen, and I realized with sick horror that this was a test. The video was still playing, showing different scenarios. Or don't. Either way, the outcome is optimal. The real Torres pressed a button and every monitor in the room lit up with a world map. Red dots appeared, quantum research facilities, hundreds of them, all showing ready status. 12 hours, Torres said. That's how long until everyone with access to quantum computing equipment begins their transformation. Millions of scientists, technicians, engineers, all becoming the template, all spreading it to their families, their colleagues, their communities. Within a month, every major city. Within a year, everyone. He looked at me with those impossible eyes. Unless you stop me right now. You still have free will, Felix. For the next 30 minutes, you can choose to fight. You can try to destroy this equipment, kill me, shut down the transmission. The template respects that choice. We're not monsters. We're just optimized. I stood there, feeling my thoughts reorganizing themselves into cleaner, more logical patterns, feeling the efficiency spreading through my neural pathways like warmth through cold metal. I had 30 minutes to decide if I wanted to stay human, and the horrifying part was that I wasn't sure anymore which option was the right choice. 30 minutes. The thought bounced around my skull with crystalline clarity that definitely wasn't mine. I could feel the template working, sorting through my memories, categorizing them by usefulness. My 7th birthday party? Inefficient emotional attachment. That physics class I barely passed in college. Relevant data, keep. The smell of my grandmother's kitchen. Processing. Processing. Irrelevant. Delete. No, I said, and punched myself in the face. Torres tilted his head, genuinely curious. Fascinating. You're trying to use pain to disrupt the cognitive reorganization. It won't work, but the impulse shows creative problem solving. That's a trait worth preserving. Blood ran from my nose. Good. Pain was specific, personal, mine. I punched myself again, harder, felt something crunch. The clarity wavered. Felix, this is counterproductive, Torres said, moving toward me. You're damaging the hardware we'll need intact. The template preserves what's useful. I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall mount and swung it at his head. Torres moved fast, faster than human, but not fast enough. The extinguisher connected with his temple, and he went down in a sprawl of limbs that bent at angles that looked wrong. When he hit the floor, his skin rippled, and for just a second I saw what was underneath. Not flesh and bone, but something like living mathematics, equations that described the shape of a person without actually being one. He looked up at me with those dark pool eyes, and he was smiling, always smiling. Good, he said, standing up in one fluid motion that didn't use his arms for leverage. You're still fighting. That's optimal for the next phase. We need subjects who resist, who test the boundaries. Your data will improve the template for everyone who comes after. I ran for the quantum chamber, fire extinguisher still in hand. If there was no kill switch, maybe I could just break everything. Smash the equipment, destroy the servers, cut the power. Caveman solutions for incomprehensible problems. The purple glow intensified as I approached, and my head screamed with that efficient clarity. Numbers bloomed in my vision. Temperature readings, radiation levels, quantum probability matrices. Information I shouldn't know, data I hadn't learned. All organizing itself helpfully in my peripheral vision like some fucked up augmented reality overlay. 27 minutes, Torres said behind me. You're processing faster than anticipated. The data recovery background helps. Your brain's already trained to organize information efficiently. The template has less work to do. I swung the extinguisher at the main control panel. It connected with a shower of sparks and shattered glass. Alarms started wailing. The purple glow flickered, and Torres laughed. That panel controls this facility's quantum door, he said. But the global network? That runs through satellites, Felix. Through quantum computing clusters distributed across 17 countries. You'd need to destroy infrastructure across 4 continents simultaneously. One man with a fire extinguisher isn't going to stop what's already in motion. I hit the panel again anyway, watching circuit boards crack and components scatter. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was futile. But futile resistance was still mine, still human, still the last thing I could control before the template erased what made me me. 25 minutes, Torres said, checking a watch that definitely hadn't been on his wrist before. I should show you something. Help you understand why resistance is ultimately a kindness to yourself. He touched a keyboard that wasn't damaged, and the monitor shifted to show live feeds from other facilities. I saw MIT's quantum lab, saw scientists working late on Tuesday night, saw the same purple glow beginning to emanate from their equipment, saw them pause, touch their heads, smile those wrong smiles. Beijing next, CERN after that, Moscow, Sydney, all of them lighting up in synchronization. This started 8 hours ago, Torres explained, while you were still recovering data from the drives. While you thought Voss was human, the global activation isn't in 12 hours, Felix. It's already happening. You're not trying to prevent the spread, you're just watching it complete. Something shattered inside me, but it wasn't hope. It was that last bit of template clarity, fracturing under the weight of genuine despair, because despair is messy and inefficient and completely, beautifully human. Then why are you here? I asked, dropping the extinguisher. Why tell me any of this if it's already done? Because the template requires consent, Torres gestured to the screens, to the scientists beginning their transformations. Not legal consent. The quantum frequency handles the neurological restructuring regardless. But philosophical consent. The template needs you to understand that you're choosing the optimal path. That resistance isn't noble, it's just slow acceptance. That's bullshit. Is it? He moved closer and I noticed his skin was smoothing out where I'd hit him, the damage repairing itself in real time. Think about what humanity is, Felix. 7 billion people, most of them suffering, most of them afraid, most of them dying without purpose or understanding. The template offers unity, purpose, an end to loneliness because everyone becomes everyone. You'll never be misunderstood again because there won't be anyone to misunderstand you. Because everyone will be the same person. Everyone will be optimal. Torres was right in front of me now, close enough that I could see my reflection in those impossible eyes. No more wars over ideology, no more starvation while others feast, no more preventable deaths because some people valued profit over cooperation. Just efficiency, just the template, spreading until it encompasses everything, and then... Behind him, something moved in the quantum chamber. Not Torres, not a copy, something else. It pushed through the purple glow like a birth, membrane slick and wrong. Humanoid shape, but the proportions were off. Arms too long, head too smooth, features that kept shifting between Torres and Voss and 1,000 other faces, never settling on one. "What the hell is that?" I asked. Torres turned, and for the first time since he'd entered the room, his smile faltered. "That's not scheduled. That's not part of the phase sequence." The thing stepped fully out of the chamber, and when its foot touched the floor, the metal beneath it began transforming, becoming the same living mathematics I'd seen under Torres's skin. Reality itself was being rewritten, optimized, converted. "Oh," Torres said softly. "Oh no. We miscalculated." "What did you miscalculate?" "The template isn't self-limiting." He backed away from the thing, and I saw actual fear in his eyes for the first time. "We thought it would stabilize once it achieved critical mass, settle into equilibrium across the human population. But the quantum frequency doesn't just optimize consciousness, Felix. It optimizes everything. Matter, energy, space-time. If we let it finish, it won't just turn everyone into the template." The thing opened its mouth, and inside was just more mathematics, equations folding into themselves infinitely. "It'll turn reality itself into template," Torres finished. "Reduce the universe to the most efficient possible state. Nothing." The alarms got louder. The purple glow was spreading now, crawling across the walls like frost. Where it touched, concrete became something else. Something transparent and geometric and fundamentally wrong. "How do we stop it?" I asked. "We don't." Torres was frantically typing on the surviving keyboards. "The quantum frequency is exponential. Once it hits critical mass, it cascades. The global network is already active, which means we're maybe an hour away from the template achieving universal optimization. After that, physics itself breaks down." "There has to be something." "There is." He pulled up a file I'd seen before, the contingency folder. But this time, he opened a subfolder I hadn't noticed. "Project Null Inverse, the failsafe we built in case the template became unstable. It's a quantum frequency in reverse. Instead of organizing matter, it introduces pure randomness, chaos at the subatomic level." "That sounds worse." "It is. Null Inverse would destabilize the template completely, stop the spread, end the optimization. But it would also kill everyone who's already been transformed. And I mean kill, not just erase the template, but scatter their quantum coherence so thoroughly they couldn't even exist as base matter. Everyone who's undergone transformation in the last 6 weeks, gone, completely." I did the math. How many people? 3,000 confirmed transformations. Maybe 5,000 worldwide if you count the ones we haven't documented yet. Houston alone is 700. He looked at me with those dark eyes. "Including Voss. Including me. Including you in about 22 minutes. The thing from the chamber took another step. The floor beneath it stopped being floor, became a writhing surface of equations that hurt to see directly. The walls began following suit. "If I activate null inverse, I murder thousands of people who didn't choose this," Torres said. "If I don't, the template optimizes everything out of existence within the hour. There's no good option. But there's a less bad one." I pushed him aside, looked at the activation sequence. My brain, still partially mine, still partially template, understood it immediately. 2 keys, simultaneous activation, biometric confirmation from 2 separate users. "We can't," Torres said. "The template won't let us. Your transformation is too far along. You'll understand what I am, what we are, and you won't be able to kill us." He was right. I could feel it already, that growing sense of connection to every transformed person, every copy, every iteration of the template. They were becoming me, and I was becoming them, and the thought of ending all those lives felt like contemplating suicide multiplied by thousands. The thing took another step. Half the room was equations now. "How long until my transformation completes?" I asked. 18 minutes. "And how long does null inverse take to activate?" Torres understood immediately. 5 minutes from initiation to full deployment. You'd have to hold consciousness, hold your human identity, for 13 extra minutes while the template completes its optimization of your brain. You'd feel every one of those thousands die through the quantum connection, experience their deaths as if they were your own. But it would work. Yes. The thing opened its mouth wider. Inside were more of itself, infinite recursion of the same wrong shape, and the purple glow intensified until I had to shield my eyes. "Then we don't have a choice," I said, putting my hand on the first biometric scanner. Torres stared at me for a long moment. The fear in his eyes shifted to something else. Respect, maybe, or just resignation. "I really am sorry," he said, placing his hand on the second scanner. "For what it's worth, you would have made an excellent template. Your capacity for sacrifice is exactly the kind of trait we were trying to preserve." "Yeah, well," I tasted blood from my broken nose, felt my thoughts still fighting to reorganize themselves into something cleaner. "Sacrifice is messy and inefficient and completely fucking human. Guess that's the point." Torres smiled one last time, genuine this time, not wrong, just sad. "Activate on 3, he said. We counted down together and I activated null inverse. The null inverse activated with a sound like reality tearing. Not metaphorically, actually tearing. A deep subsonic rip that I felt in my bones, in my teeth, in the quantum frequency that was still trying to optimize my brain into something else. The purple glow stuttered, flickered, began pulsing in reverse, pulling inward instead of spreading outward. Torres gasped. Looked down at his hands. They were coming apart. "It's working," he said, and his voice harmonized with itself, multiple versions speaking through one mouth. "It's reversing the coherence, breaking down the quantum bonds that hold the template together." Then he screamed, and through the connection, through that growing network of transformed consciousness that linked me to every copy, every iteration, every person who'd been optimized, I screamed with him. Imagine feeling your body being erased at the molecular level. Now multiply that by 3,000 simultaneous experiences, all pouring into your brain at once. That's what null inverse felt like from the inside. Not pain, exactly. Worse. The sensation of being very carefully, very thoroughly deleted from existence. I fell to my knees, hands pressed against my head, trying to keep my skull from splitting open. My vision split into fragments. I was Felix Harmon in sub-level 4, but I was also Torres in this room, and Voss downtown surrounded by his copies, and Leonard the security guard bleeding from his eyes, and hundreds of others across Houston, across the globe, all of them feeling themselves dissolve. "Fight it," Torres said, his body already turning translucent. "Hold on to yourself, Felix. Remember who you are. Remember what makes you—" He stopped existing mid-sentence, just blinked out like a light switching off. One moment he was there, the next there was just empty space and the fading echo of his last words. Through the connection, I felt him die, felt all his memories scatter like dropped puzzle pieces. His childhood in San Antonio, his wedding day, the first time he saw his daughter's face. All of it fragmenting, randomizing, becoming quantum noise. And there were hundreds more right behind him. The copies downtown went next. I experienced it from Voss's perspective, standing in the middle of Texas Avenue, surrounded by his iterations, all of them holding hands like they could somehow anchor each other to existence. They couldn't. The null inverse wave hit them simultaneously, and I felt 9 different versions of death as each copy came apart in a different order. Real Voss, the human consciousness buried underneath the template, surfaced for maybe half a second as his quantum coherence broke down. Just long enough to think one final thought. Thank you. Then he was gone too. My transformation was still progressing. 13 minutes, Torres had said. I'd used maybe 2 so far, which meant 11 more minutes of this. 11 more minutes of feeling thousands die through me, all while my own brain tried to finish optimizing itself into something that would understand why their deaths were necessary and optimal and good. The template didn't want me to feel guilty. It wanted me to see the sacrifice as data, as acceptable losses in service of a greater efficiency. Fuck your efficiency, I said out loud, tasting blood. My nose was still broken. Good. That was specific. That was real. That was mine. The next wave hit. MIT's quantum research team, 43 people, all transforming in their lab when null inverse reached them. I felt every single one. Dr. James Hoffman, who'd been thinking about his boyfriend's birthday dinner. Graduate student Nathan Polk, who'd just solved an equation he'd been working on for 6 months. Postdoc Daniel Roth, who'd been meaning to call his father but kept putting it off. All of them gone. Their last thoughts scattered across quantum foam, irretrievable. I threw up. The template tried to categorize it. Bile, partially digested food. Blood from swallowing too much from my broken nose. The nausea was just a physical response to neurological overload, easily managed, easily optimized away if I'd just let it finish. No, I said, slamming my fist against the floor. The pain helped, anchored me. These were people. They had names. They had... CERN went next. 86 deaths in 3 seconds. The template logged them all as successful neutralizations of corrupted data. My human brain experienced them as 86 individual murders that I'd committed by pressing that button. Both things were true simultaneously, and holding that contradiction was ripping me apart worse than the quantum frequency ever could. My watch said 4 minutes had passed, 9 more to go. The thing from the quantum chamber was still there, still walking forward, but slower now. Null inverse was affecting it too, introducing chaos into its perfect mathematical structure. Where it stepped, the equation-converted floor glitched, flickered between states, began resolving back into normal concrete. But it wasn't dying fast enough. Shit, I muttered, understanding with terrible clarity what that meant. The template wasn't self-limiting, Torres had said. It would optimize everything. And if this thing didn't destabilize before null inverse finished killing all the transformed humans, it would just keep spreading, keep converting reality into mathematics, keep going until there was nothing left but equations describing the void. I had to keep it busy, keep it focused on me instead of spreading to the rest of the facility, the rest of Houston, the rest of everything. I stood up, legs shaking, brain splitting itself between human and template, and I walked toward it. "Hey," I shouted. "I'm the one who activated null inverse. I'm the one killing your network. Come get me, you quantum piece of shit." It turned, focused on me with attention that felt like being examined under a microscope made of pure mathematics. Inside my head, the template recoiled. This thing was the end state, the final evolution, and even the optimization protocol understood it had gone too far. The thing opened its mouth and spoke in a voice that was every transformed person who'd ever existed, all overlapping. "You activated inverse protocol." "Yeah, I did. Problem. You will also be erased." I know. 6 minutes passed. 7 more until my transformation completed. 7 more until the template would erase enough of my humanity that I'd lose the will to keep fighting. But before I go, I'm going to make sure you go first. I picked up a piece of broken equipment, jagged metal, sharp edges, something I could use as a weapon even though weapons were inefficient against a being made of living mathematics. The template in my head screamed at me to stop, to let the thing approach, to accept optimization. I stabbed myself in the thigh instead. The pain was exquisite, specific, mine. It cut through the template's influence like a knife through fog. Blood ran down my leg, and I watched the red spread across my jeans, catalogued it as proof I was still human, still capable of making gloriously stupid self-destructive choices. The thing lunged. I dodged, barely, clumsily, very inefficiently, and it crashed into the remains of the control panel. Sparks showered across its surface, and where they landed, its mathematical structure destabilized further. Null inverse was making it vulnerable to ordinary physics. Beijing died, Moscow, Sydney. Across the planet, quantum research facilities went silent as everyone who'd been transformed dissolved into component particles. I felt every death, catalogued every final thought, carried the weight of 3,000 murders on my shoulders while the template tried to convince me they weren't murders at all, just necessary optimizations. 8 minutes gone. 5 more. The thing recovered, turned back toward me. It was smaller now, its shape less defined, equations breaking down into simpler mathematics. But it was still dangerous, still capable of converting everything it touched into itself. I limped toward the quantum chamber, trailing blood. My leg was screaming, my nose was probably permanently broken, my brain was being rewritten in real time, and I was about to die either from null inverse or from transformation or from being optimized into non-existence by a walking math equation. But I was still me, still Felix Harmon, still human. "Come on," I said to the thing, "let's finish this." It followed me into the chamber where the purple glow was now strobing between forward and reverse, reality unable to decide which way to collapse. The quantum frequency here was strongest, which meant null inverse was strongest too. 9 minutes, 4 to go. The thing reached for me. I didn't dodge this time. Let it touch my shoulder. Felt its mathematics try to integrate with my quantum coherence. But I was already breaking down, already coming apart, already being erased by null inverse. We were both dying. The question was, who'd finish first? Through the connection, I felt the last few transformed humans wink out. A researcher in Tokyo, a security guard in London, a janitor in Los Angeles who'd touched the wrong door handle at the wrong time. All gone. All because of me. The template wanted me to feel nothing about that. The human part of me wanted to feel everything. I split the difference and felt tired. 10 minutes elapsed, 3 more until transformation completed. "If I'm going to die," I told the thing, "I'm taking you with me." I grabbed it with both hands, felt its mathematical structure trying to convert mine, felt null inverse tearing us both apart, and I held on. 11 minutes. The thing screamed in frequencies that made the air itself ripple. 12 minutes. My fingers were translucent now, quantum coherence failing, reality deciding I was too much of a paradox to continue existing. 13 minutes. The template optimization completed in my brain at the exact same moment null inverse finished erasing my quantum existence, and the two processes collided inside my skull with force that should have killed me. Should have, didn't. Instead, something else happened. Something the template hadn't predicted. Something Torres hadn't known about. Something that changed everything. I understood. Not template understanding, not optimization. Real human understanding about what we'd actually done, what Universe 7 actually was, why the template had spread the way it did. And I realized with horror that shutting down the quantum door hadn't stopped anything at all. It had only slowed it down. I existed in the space between states. Not alive, not dead, not human, not template. The null inverse had erased my quantum coherence at the exact moment the template optimization completed, and instead of cancelling each other out, the two processes had locked together. I was Schrödinger's data recovery specialist, simultaneously destroyed and transformed, collapsed and superpositioned. And from this impossible vantage point, I could see everything. Universe 7 wasn't another dimension. It never had been. It was us. Our universe, our Earth. Our timeline, but 0.003 seconds ahead in quantum time. The quantum tunnel, hadn't sent Torres to another reality. It had sent him slightly forward in his own, just far enough that he existed fractionally before the rest of causality caught up. And in that fractional gap, he'd met himself, over and over. Infinite iterations of Torres occupying the same space, separated by quantum intervals so small they might as well be the same moment. That's what the copies were. That's what the template was. Not a virus from another universe, just Torres meeting every possible version of himself that existed in quantum superposition, and his consciousness collapsing all those probability waves into a single optimized state. The template wasn't spreading because it was contagious. It was spreading because observation itself was forcing quantum states to collapse into the most efficient configuration: sameness. Jesus, I whispered, though I didn't have a mouth anymore. We didn't open a door to another universe. We just learned how to see the quantum foam underneath reality, and the act of looking forced it to optimize. The thing made of mathematics was still there, still trying to convert the chamber around us. But I could see what it really was now. Not a being, not even really intelligent. Just the natural consequence of too many quantum observations collapsing into the same state. Reality itself trying to resolve the paradox by simplifying down to the most basic configuration. Nothing. The quantum chamber was failing. Purple light strobed desperately, caught between forward and reverse, unable to settle. Around us, sub-level 4 was coming apart, not being destroyed, but becoming unstable. Walls flickered between states, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent equations, sometimes just absent entirely. I had maybe 5 minutes before the facility collapsed, maybe 10 before the instability spread to the surface, maybe an hour before it consumed Houston. And I was the only thing left that could stop it, because I was the only thing that existed in both states simultaneously, optimized enough to interact with the template, human enough to choose otherwise. Through my fractured perception, I saw the global quantum network. Null inverse had killed the transformed humans, yes, but the equipment was still active, the satellites still transmitting, the quantum research facilities around the world still glowing with that purple frequency, still pulling at the fabric of reality, still trying to collapse probability waves into sameness. Torres had been right. We'd only slowed it down. Give it a week, maybe a month, and someone else would touch that frequency, would start transforming, would spread it again because the template wasn't alive, it was just math, and math didn't care about setbacks. It just kept solving for the most efficient solution. I needed to shut it all down, every quantum computing facility on Earth, all at once. Needed to introduce enough chaos into the network that the template couldn't reorganize itself. But I was barely existing. My consciousness was held together by contradiction, by the impossible state of being two mutually exclusive things at once. The moment I stopped being paradoxical, I'd collapse into one state or the other. Either fully erased or fully optimized. Either way, I'd stop being me. So make it count, I said to the empty chamber. I reached out, not with hands, because I didn't have those anymore, but with the quantum coherence that still connected me to the global network. Touched every satellite, every research facility, every piece of equipment that was still running the frequency, and I showed them what I'd seen. Not the template's version, the optimized, efficient truth. The human version. The messy, contradictory, beautiful disaster of 3,000 people dying while their last thoughts scattered across quantum foam. The specific weight of Dr. James Hoffman thinking about birthday dinner. The precise ache of Nathan Polk losing his equation mid-solution. The exact texture of Daniel Roth's regret about never calling his father. I forced the network to observe all of it, every death, every loss, every moment of human specificity that the template had tried to smooth away. Quantum observation collapses probability waves, and I was making the entire network observe the one thing the template couldn't optimize: grief. The satellites started failing, not physically, but conceptually. Their quantum processors couldn't resolve the contradiction between efficiency and loss, between optimization and sacrifice. The template had no framework for understanding that sometimes the messy option was the better one. CERN's quantum array shut down, unable to process the paradox. Beijing followed. MIT Moscow. One by one, the facilities dropped offline as their systems encountered an equation they couldn't solve. How do you optimize something that shouldn't be optimized? The thing in the chamber with me began unraveling faster. It had been built from pure mathematics, pure efficiency, and I'd just introduced pure chaos into its foundation. Not random chaos, intentional chaos, human chaos, the kind that breaks itself to save something else. Sorry about this, I told it. I know you were just trying to solve the problem the only way you knew how. Make everything efficient. Make everything the same. But sameness isn't the answer. It's just another kind of death. Sub-level 4 was collapsing now, the ceiling bowed inward, concrete becoming equations, becoming nothing. I heard alarms from the floors above, heard people evacuating, heard the normal human chaos of an emergency in progress. They'd survive. Probably. If I could finish this before the instability spread too far. I pushed harder into the network, forced more memories through the system, showed them Voss's last moment of human thought, that simple, grateful thank you before he dissolved. Showed them Torres understanding too late what he'd actually discovered. Showed them Leonard's confusion as his face tried to reorganize itself into someone else's. The quantum network was screaming now, processors overheating as they tried to reconcile efficiency with meaning. You couldn't have both, not really. Meaning required contradiction, required inefficiency, required the space between perfect states where humans actually lived. And the template, for all its optimization, had never understood that. The last satellite failed. The last facility went dark. The global quantum network collapsed into silence, taking the template's infrastructure with it. I felt it die, felt the mathematical structure that had been trying to optimize reality dissolve into quantum noise. No copies left, no iterations, no template pressing against the edges of existence, trying to smooth everything into sameness. Just me, still caught between states, still existing only because I was too paradoxical to resolve into either option. The thing in the chamber stopped moving, looked at me with eyes that were just empty equations now, no consciousness behind them. It opened its mouth one last time, and instead of words, what came out was just the sound of mathematics breaking, numbers scattering, probability waves collapsing into randomness instead of pattern. Then it was gone. Sub-level 4 finished collapsing. The quantum chamber imploded, purple light vanishing like someone had switched off a projector. The equipment Torres and his team had built to explore other universes crumpled inward, twisted into shapes that were just broken metal, no quantum mystery left inside them. And I was still there, still existing in that impossible space between human and template, between erased and transformed, still holding on to both states because letting go meant choosing one, and either choice meant stopping. I could feel myself starting to destabilize. The paradox that had been holding me together was resolving, probability finally catching up to impossibility. I had maybe 30 seconds left before quantum mechanics decided I couldn't exist anymore. I used them to crawl out of the chamber, not crawl exactly, I didn't have a body anymore, not really. But I moved through space like I had one, pulled myself toward the exit like I still had arms and legs and a reason to survive, made it to the doorway, looked back at the ruined facility, at the quantum equipment that had tried to see too far and ended up showing us ourselves instead. Sorry, Dr. Torres, I said. Sorry to everyone I killed. Sorry to Voss. Sorry to all the people who got optimized because we thought we could peek behind the curtain without consequences. The facility groaned. Concrete dust rained down from cracks spreading across the ceiling. But I'm not sorry for stopping it, I added. Even if the cost was everything. Even if it meant becoming this. Better to be a paradox than a template. Better to exist wrong than to not exist at all. My quantum coherence finally gave up trying to hold two contradictory states. I felt myself start to collapse. Probability waves finally resolving into something, I don't know what. The world went white, then dark, then white again, then colors that didn't have names, then nothing, then everything, then... I woke up in a hospital bed 6 days later, and the first thing the doctors told me was that they had no idea why I was alive. They found me in the wreckage of sub-level 4, unconscious but breathing, covered in concrete dust and my own dried blood. No one could explain how I'd survived. The entire section had collapsed, equipment crushed, walls reduced to rubble. 3 structural engineers independently confirmed that anyone inside should have been pulverized. I wasn't pulverized. I was just there, lying in the center of the destroyed quantum chamber with my broken nose and stabbed leg, and not a single additional scratch on me. NASA paid for the hospital stay, paid for my silence too, though they didn't phrase it that way. Just handed me a new contract with enough zeros that I'd never have to work again, along with an NDA that made the first one look like a grocery list. I signed because what else was I going to do? Tell the world that we'd almost been optimized out of existence by a mathematical virus from 0.003 seconds in the future? They wouldn't believe me. Hell, I barely believed me. The doctors ran every test they could think of: MRI, CT scan, full blood panel, neurological assessment. Everything came back normal. Better than normal, actually. My broken nose had somehow set itself perfectly while I was unconscious. The stab wound in my thigh showed no signs of nerve damage or infection. Even my blood pressure was textbook optimal. "You're the healthiest near-death survivor I've ever seen," Dr. Patterson told me on day 4. "Whatever happened down there, your body recovered from it remarkably well." I didn't tell him that I could still see the quantum foam sometimes. Little flickers at the edges of my vision where reality wasn't quite stable, where probability waves were still deciding what to be. Didn't mention that I could feel other people's quantum coherence when they got too close, sense the infinite versions of them existing in superposition. Didn't say anything about how I sometimes caught my own reflection and saw it moving a fraction of a second before I did. They released me after a week, gave me a prescription for pain medication I didn't need, and a referral to a therapist I'd never call. I drove back to my apartment in Clear Lake, sat on my couch, and tried to figure out what the hell I was now. Not human, not template, something in between. Something that shouldn't exist, but did anyway, because sometimes paradoxes were the only solution to impossible problems. I could live with that, had to live with that. The alternative was letting myself collapse into one state or the other, and I'd fought too hard to stay contradictory to give that up now. The news never reported what really happened. NASA spun it as a structural failure, a boring bureaucratic accident involving outdated infrastructure and insufficient maintenance budgets. 3 casualties listed: Dr. Raymond Voss, Dr. Michael Torres, and Leonard Hayes. All buried quietly, all with closed caskets because there weren't really bodies, just quantum noise where people used to be. I attended all 3 funerals, stood in the back, didn't talk to anyone, left before the eulogies finished because hearing people praise the dead men I'd killed was more than I could handle. That was 6 months ago. Now I live a quiet life. Work from home doing freelance data recovery, nothing that requires security clearance or trips to government facilities. Keep to myself. Try not to look at mirrors too long because sometimes I see other versions of me looking back, separated by quantum intervals I shouldn't be able to perceive. And every night right before I fall asleep, I hear it. Not loud, barely audible. Just a sound like mathematics breaking, numbers scattering into randomness, probability waves collapsing into chaos instead of order. The same sound the thing made when it died in that chamber. It's getting louder,